Hello, my friends. We are in a series called Habits and Healing. And this series is so special because I think that habits and healing go very well together because both habits and healing involve making changes that will lead to growth. And healing often means breaking old patterns and replacing them with healthier habits. And the reason that we want to create new habits in a season of healing is to give us the structure that we need and to keep us grounded in these times. And also to help us handle the stress that we're facing better. So the small wins that we will create along the way from our habits is going to be a way to build confidence and create that sense of purpose that we might be lacking in this season. And along with that, by making new habits that, build our confidence and create this purpose, makes our healing process a little bit stronger. So it's not just about letting go of old habits, but choosing new ones that are going to help us grow and move forward in a positive direction in this time of healing. So as I've mentioned in previous episodes, healing can be so many different things that you might be going through. So whatever that is on your heart, I hope these episodes can speak to the season that you're in. And today's episode is going to be about healing from holiday anxiety. And this episode really was placed on my heart by the Lord. I had a list of episodes that was going to be like, recording this one, this one, this one. I had it all in order. And when I went to go look at my list, I was like, that just doesn't feel right for this week. Like, I don't know why that episode theme was just like, I don't know why it's just not hitting. And it just came to me, it was placed on my heart that I should talk about holiday anxiety. And it's something that I feel like I'm very excited to share with you today. And with holiday anxiety, what I hope to cover today, and I hope that we can take away from this episode, is giving you a little toolbox of what you can take into this holiday season. And I want to talk about a couple different things, but I think the main focuses are going to be around pressures of food and diet culture around the holiday season, your mental health during the holiday season and how it might get affected, and what are some ways that we can tackle this together? What are some things that we can take into the holiday season with us so that we are becoming better and healed versions ourselves, even in a time like the holidays when it feels extra heavy? And you would think that with the holidays, it wouldn't feel heavy. It should be a time of light and laughter. But sometimes these holidays can bring up a lot of different emotions for people. So I just hope that this episode blesses you in some type of way and that you can take some piece of this with you into the holiday season. So I don't know about you, but for me, I do think the holidays bring a certain level of anxiety. And I'm somebody who does love the holidays. Like, I love giving is one of my top love languages. So I do love the holidays. I love the time together with family, but I think it does kind of stir up some different emotions and different anxieties, and how they show up. And I guess for me, that came to my mind were, food and diet culture. So I think it really amplifies, like, if you're in a season that you're trying to get healthier, it feels 10 times harder to stay healthy. And then if you are indulging like all season long, that definitely affects you mentally, especially if you have been doing good for a while. And another way this kind of shows up, I think, is in our mental health. Like, the holidays can definitely affect our mental health, affect a lot of people's mental health, because we're dealing with family dynamics and we're dealing with a lot of different emotions. It kind of ranges from joy-filled days and happy days, and then other emotions might tag along with that, like sadness. If you are in a season like myself of this is a holiday that you're going to spend alone, and this might be a first time you've spent a holiday alone, like, that's something to acknowledge. Like, that definitely carries a weight to it as well. I think in this episode, I hope to share some ways that I hope to find connection in this season. And I just want to acknowledge, like, that definitely can create an anxiety. And along with, not only are we dealing with all these emotions, family dynamics, like if you have a estranged family or you have unresolved conflicts in your family, complex situations, if you're dealing with being single this holiday season, we're also dealing with seasonal depression on top of this. So the days are so much shorter. it gets dark at 4 o'clock here, it just feels like the days are so much shorter and colder. And I think that just all affects us mentally. And so adding that into the mix is just so much fun. And then just something else to acknowledge of why the holidays can be kind of hard is, like I mentioned, emotional overload. And also, if you're in a season of grieving someone, I just want to acknowledge that these times can bring up a lot of emotions for people of nostalgia, where you're thinking about back to traditions you've had. And if this is a year that lost someone like that, that is so tough. And I just want you to have this space to be able to feel all of those emotions and validate those emotions that you experience. And remember to note, like, no emotions are inherently bad. And when you try to write them off as bad, you are not having the time to acknowledge them and potentially work through them. So when these emotions arise for you and for me, like, the goal is acknowledge that they're present and what do we need right now? Like, what is that thing that we need, instead of just shoving them down and dealing with them at another time? Like, acknowledge that they're there and validate that they're there. So with all of that said, like, you might have something else to add to the list of why the holidays bringing up anxiety for you. I think the list definitely can go on, but those are some things that came to my mind. And I want to dive a little bit deeper into the topic of navigating food/diet anxiety. I think during the time of the holidays, there's so much sweet treats around, there's so much food around. It can create like a lot of guilt in us, because it's like, oh, I overdid it again. I was trying to be healthy. So I hope to provide with some tips of, like, how can we enjoy the food around the holiday season without feeling that guilt? And what are some ways that we can plan ahead so that we don't keep getting ourselves like stuck in these situations, which takes away the joy from the holidays? So with diet culture as a whole, this is a topic I definitely want to talk more about in the future. Diet culture as a whole is very toxic, and it has a lot of bad messaging out there. And there's a lot of like rewiring that we have to do for our brains to be able to eat normally again. So just trigger warning for anybody that struggles with disordered eating. I just want to preface, just trigger warning here. It can be really tough. It can be tough to move away from those bad eating habits and get back into what we'd like to consider normal eating habits. So something that you can try to do in this holiday season is to listen to your body, and not in a hokey way of like, listen to what your body needs. No, like, listen to your hunger cues, like listen to physically like what your body is telling you, and listen to your fullness cues as well. So when you are at like that 80% full, like honoring that and not overdoing it. And this will allow you to enjoy the foods that you want to have at the holiday season without overdoing it and feeling guilty about it. So something to practice when navigating, food at the holidays is, instead of thinking about what you have to take away or what you need to restrict, this is like a big number one tip, is just to think about what you can add. So instead of being like, I can't have this and restricting yourself, I want you to think about what can you have and what can I add to make this more nutritious and make this so I can still reach my goals. Drinking enough water in a day and adding protein and vegetables onto your plate so you have a more balanced meal, and the protein is going to help you get more full and you are still able to enjoy. Let's say you love the mashed potatoes. You're not getting a whole plate of mashed potatoes at Thanksgiving or Christmas, but you have your portion of mashed potatoes that also comes with whatever vegetable you guys have at Christmas time, carrots, green beans, and then you also have enough turkey or ham on your plate that is going to satisfy you. And the reason that this is really important, because physiologically, like, you are supporting your glucose levels, which are supporting your insulin levels. So this goes beyond just like having a well-balanced meal. You want to balance out those sugar levels to support digestion so that, you're not spiking your insulin and you're keeping like a steady base, and you're able to maintain like a steady diet, and you're not like all over the map. So think about what you can add to your plate to make it more balanced, instead of thinking about what you can't have. Like, of course, you can still have that piece of pie, but like make sure in your day that you've had enough nutritious foods to eat as well. And like that one piece of pie isn't all you're having, because that amount of carbs and sugars is going to do numbers to you if you don't have the right things to balance out those insulin levels. And on top of that, like, so think about what you can add instead of what you have to take away. Can you add in some movement in this season? You might be indulging a little bit more, but is there a way that you can add some movement into your day-to-days and have a way that it's fun for you around the holidays? Maybe you're doing like holiday 5K races, or you're attending different style workouts that are like maybe holiday themed. What are some ways that we can add that movement into this season? Because, as we mentioned earlier, seasonal depression's real. And this is a great way to boost those endorphins and get your body moving in a season that can feel like really stagnant. And we're just like sitting around, eating, all that fun stuff. So some ways to set you up for success when it comes to trying to maintain eating normal around the holidays is to plan ahead. So a great way is to offer to bring something. Bring a healthy option that you won't feel any guilt while eating it, and that you could probably overindulge in and still get away with it. Something that you feel like, this is a nutritious meal that I can provide, and I know the ingredients that I put into it, so I have no problem having a little bit more of this. And along with this is, if you're not drinking in this season right now, bring a mocktail. Offer to bring a mocktail. And even if, like, say, you feel weird just showing up with a mocktail, bring a bottle of wine for whoever you're attending, like the host, and then bring a mocktail for yourself. And if you have a mocktail, like if you plan to share it, I really think that others will thank you for this, because a lot of people are too nervous to like do it themselves. But once they realize there's an option there for them, like I think other people would really thank you for this. And same with the healthy meal and the nourishing options. Like, if you provide something for other people who are probably facing the same thing as you are, they'll feel so grateful that like, oh, someone's in the same boat as me, like something to like even connect on. And honestly, like, I don't know if you guys come from this type of house, but I come from a house that has always been very focused on weight, healthy eating, dieting. It's just like a big proponent of my family, which makes sense of how I ended up like kind of in the field that I'm in today. But it has absolutely like affected me so much, like anytime you walk into the house, it's like, like the first thing people are doing when they look at you is like, oh, yep, she lost 5 pounds. Oh, she gained 5 pounds. Oh, and they're like, oh my gosh. Like, if you did lose weight, it's, oh my gosh, you look so good. And then if you don't hear that, you're kind of subconsciously thinking, like they didn't tell me like you look so good. So therefore, like maybe I did put on a couple pounds. And it's just like this weird dynamic that I don't think it has bad intentions with it, but it's just been a big thing in my family. So if you relate to this, like I obviously am so with you here. And some ways that I've learned to kind of navigate through this is, one, trying to learn to be secure in yourself, realizing there's seasons for your body, like you're going to go through ups and downs. And also something I personally do is not acknowledging it. So obviously if someone's like, oh my gosh, you look so good, what are you doing? And you could say thank you, of course, but like not getting into it, because like there's 1,000 other things to talk about, and that just doesn't need to be one of it. Or like someone brings up like exercise regimens, all this stuff. You can keep it as surface level as you want. Like you don't need to get into the weeds, because everybody has an opinion on what you're doing, how you're doing it. Just share as much as you feel comfortable with. You don't owe anybody anything when it comes to what you're doing with your body and, how you're eating and all these things. So with that said, just share with what you're comfortable, and like you get to set the expectations of the boundaries. Like, hey, like we don't talk about my body. We don't talk about my body image. Like it's just not something I'm comfortable with. And there's a way to do that doesn't sound as blunt as that, but kind of just shifting the focus of the conversation, if it ends up there, to like turn away from it and just like redirect the conversation. They're like, that's just not something we talk about. And like over time, hopefully people get the hint, and it's just something that you can move away from, because that would make probably anybody very uncomfortable, I would assume. But yeah, I wanted to acknowledge that dealing with body image around the holidays can be really hard. And, if you're in a season that you feel like you're struggling, like with how you look and things like that, like I totally resonate with you that it's a hard season to be in, and I'm just sending you a hug right now because listen, your body is doing the best it can with where you are at right now. Like your body is literally adapting to whatever environment and stress you are in. So give yourself so much grace right now and just remember like this version of you is not a permanent version of you, and just extend that to like yourself. And I just hope that's a good reminder for everyone in this season. So I know for me, like mental health can take a big hit in the holiday season. There's a lot going on. There's just so much, it feels very chaotic. There's a lot of emotions that arise. There's a lot of expectations that arise. It can be very overwhelming. Connection can play a huge role into it of like I said, if this is your first holiday, like single or something, or maybe you moved away, like that can really impact you. So what does that look like for us? How do we take care of our mental health in this season? And the first thing I want to talk about is setting realistic expectations for yourself. So letting go of perfectionism and focusing on what truly matters in this season. So I think social media always gives us like what the holiday ideal or just what the ideal of life looks like. And we all know, even though we get caught up in it all the time, that that's fake. I just saw a TikTok of how there was an influencer who stole $500 worth of products and like she got caught for it. But like all these, these things that we see, there is another side to it all. The happy relationship you see has another side to it all. So keeping yourself in check of like not getting too caught up in the world of comparing yourself to others on social media, and remind yourself they're not reality, And when setting realistic expectations, set a realistic budget. So right now I'm in a tough season. I am in grad school. I'm finishing my last year. I have to do clinical hours that I don't get paid for. So my time to be able to work a job that I get paid for is so slim. So being realistic with myself that this is not going to be a season that I'm Santa Claus. Like this is going to be a season that's a little bit tighter. And I have to be honest with myself. That's hard for me because as I mentioned earlier, this is my love language. I love giving gifts, but I have to be realistic with myself and remembering that me showing up as a good person for everybody in my life and not being stressed about the debt I could potentially put myself in just to make, I want to say other people happy, but I honestly think it's making myself happy, is not as important as being that good person. So remember that people care more about you showing up to the holiday as your full, happiest, joy-filled self than the gift that you are going to give them. Like, gifts are awesome, but remember, like we are also at an age too that we probably can go out and buy whatever we really want. So like not receiving a gift is not as important as like having those connections and having those people with you around the holidays. So try to remind yourself that the holidays are about whatever is most meaningful to you. So connection, family, rest, whatever that word is for you, instead of going into debt. It is not worth it. So with that said, how do we cope with like the overwhelm of the holidays? I think a lot of us take on a lot more than we need to in this season. Like it's only really a month. How much can you really take on in a month? So being very like mindful of that and to not take on as much as you don't take it on more than you can. And this kind of goes in a couple different things. So like don't say yes to too many things that you can't handle. And then also like, invitations to things, commitments to things, hosting things. I think it's important to learn how to delegate tasks and also just politely say no. This is like a life skill as a whole. So again, it's more important for you to show up as like your best version of yourself and to prioritize your energy in this season. Learning how can I like say no, but like say no politely. So like if you have family members that are pressuring you to host the holidays, say like, let's plan it together so we can share the responsibilities. Like don't let someone pressure you into doing something like you don't want to do. Especially if someone's like, oh, you should do it. It's like, well, why don't you do it? And then also just like, in this season, just try to only say yes to the things that really mean the most to you. So the things that you feel like that's an absolute yes. And like, even if you're even hesitating on it, it's a no. It's a no. Don't do too much in this season that you don't think that you can take on. So something else that might be affecting your mental health in this season, as I kind of mentioned earlier, is connection. So again, if you're single in this season, or maybe you moved away, or maybe you're having a really tough time with your family's relationship right now, and you feel like that's not where I can put myself this year, I still think it's really important to seek connection during this season, because I think a lot in our culture, I do think, the holiday season is about connection and sharing it with others. So thinking of some alternative ways that you can fill up your connection bucket during this season, thinking about reaching out to some other people that you considered loved ones, but maybe not family. Get involved with things, get involved with your community, get involved with maybe giving back during this season. I think that's a good way to still pour into that connection bucket and getting around other people. So in this time, like, you can select your chosen family. So not the people that you were basically born into, but getting around people that fit your values and where you're at right now. So maybe if you moved away during this season, it's about getting connected with some people at your church and like seeing if they would have you at their holidays, because I think it's really important for your mental health to be around some people during the season and during this transition of your life. And maybe if you're in a season of singleness, maybe this looks like getting around some friends and spending time with your family and really pouring into those relationships instead of a traditional romantic relationship during this season. And then lastly, I just want to kind of touch upon honoring your emotions during the holiday season. As I have mentioned countless times in this episode, there is a lot of emotions that come up during the holiday season, and it can feel like frustrating at times. It can feel sad, you're grieving someone. It could feel really happy at other times, joy-filled. There's going to be such a array of emotions, and allowing yourself to feel those, experiencing them, sitting in them even when it's uncomfortable, and then also reflecting on this time and using it as an opportunity for growth of what is this feeling teaching me as I prepare for 2025. As I move into the new year, this is something that is clearly bothering me and probably has been. It's just in my face right now, and I'm feeling like triggered by it. And being able to identify that, and this is kind of, the healing portion of habits and healing, being able to put a name to that you're feeling. And that way, this is something that you can actively work on, and hopefully that you can leave behind in this past year and move into the new year without that weight of that thing that's still bothering you, or just maybe not in the capacity that it was. So sitting in the emotions that you're feeling, to acknowledge them and to honor them and to validate them. And then also with that, looking towards the future of how do I want to take this with me? In what capacity do I want to take this with me? What are some things that I can do in this year so I don't have to take it with me? What are some ways that I can let this thing stay in this year? What are some ways that I can make it right? So if it's maybe a bad relationship with a family member, maybe you don't want to take that into this upcoming year, because this upcoming year for you might mean healing and, sense of growth and purpose. And maybe you don't want this thing to have a stronghold on you anymore. And this thing is an opportunity for you to come to agreement with it, come to acceptance of it, and learning how you want to move forward with it. So real quick, I just want to discuss what are some ways that we can fill up our survival guide toolbox in this season. What are some things that we can put into our toolbox that we can take with us into the holiday season? And here's some things that I kind of came up with, and there are praying, of course, always praying, talking to the Lord, bringing it to Him in your quiet moments and in your secret place with Him, and just talking to Him about everything you're feeling. And when the emotions do come up, present them to Him like He is with you, and He is with the brokenhearted. So if that's how you're feeling this holiday season, I encourage you to rely on your connection with the Lord too. This season is about Jesus. and family and things like that. So spending a little extra quality time with Jesus on his, around his birthday, just like we would with our own family members. And I think during this time too, something else you can put in your toolbox is taking time to recover. So don't fill out your schedule 7 days a week. You have an event every single day. Schedule intentional time that you are going to do nothing. Like, this is a recovery day. This is a time for me to recover, like have a moment alone and, process through some things and then be recharged for the world. It's something that I'm going to do in this season. As I mentioned, like, this is a season for me that I don't have a lot of money. So enjoying the more simple things and things that like I love about the holiday season that isn't just about gifts or, money, things like that. Visiting Christmas lights, playing games, watching holiday movies, like Hallmark movies, and spending quality time with people that I love, and like spending time with my friends, and like experiencing Christmas and the holidays from a different perspective. As I mentioned, like, this is my first Christmas not with a partner. And so experiencing it totally different. I'm pretty excited for that. Like, pour into the people who love me, and I get to love them back. Like, and I get to pour that extra love into them this year. So that's super exciting. It's something that I'm looking forward to. And yeah, I guess that kind of looks like creating new traditions too. That kind of just came to me, but creating new small moments and looking at the joy of the season in a different lens and kind of looking at it for a different lens. Like, how can I like have a different season this year, but like in the best way possible? So with that said, I just want you to know, like, in this holiday season, you are never alone. First of all, God is with you, and he is walking with you in every season. And there are so many people around you who do love you, and they're ready to support you. And there is a lot of resources out there too. I hope you found this to be a valuable resource to take with you throughout the holiday season. And I'm just praying for you that this is a great season for you, that this is a blessed holiday season for you. And I am very excited for next week's episode. I love this series so much. I just think it's so special to me. It's something, again, that has just been something I think is just, there's so much goodness in each and every episode, and something that the Lord wants to tell each and every single one of you. And I'm just a vessel for him to use in this time in the ways of the different things that, he wants to teach you about habits and healing and how you can grow into the person that he's called you to be first and most of all. So I will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you so much, especially if you listened all the way to the end. Thanks, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. And real quick, if you guys could do a huge favor and share this episode with somebody that you think would be blessed by it. And you can catch me during the week on Instagram at Sam DeSalvo. Have a great week, guys. Bye.